Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to AnTalk, the weekly comic conversation. So, today, let's talk about Ghost in the Shell, the 1995 anime film. This is based on the manga of the same name by Masamune Shirow. Ghost in the Shell is a big time classic in the world of anime. The story and main character, Major Motoko Kusanagi, are iconic. Ghost in the Shell is one of the first real big breakthroughs for anime or Japanese animation on reaching American audiences. Like I said, it's a classic and it's not hard to see why. Besides its incredible animation and action sequences and badass protagonists, all set in a major futuristic city with advanced technology being one of its big themes. This film is also thought-provoking. When you really stop and think about it, this film presents a pretty powerful concept and question about life itself. Directed by Mamoru Oshii and produced by Production IG, an anime studio, this film was released in Japan in 1995 and in America 1996. This movie was very critically well received and beloved by many, making this film a certified classic, especially in anime. Since then, Ghost in the Shell has had a couple sequels, a series called Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex, the Arise series, and even video games. Not only has it partly inspired cinematic classics like The Matrix, as of March 31st, 2017, it will have its own live-action adaptation titled Ghost in the Shell, starring Scarlett Johansson. I will more towards the end, but before I get into my full-on review, I just want to say this is definitely a movie that would benefit from multiple viewings. There's actually a lot going on in Ghost in the Shell. I think you can get the point and pick up on the themes of the movie by the end, but I think that's even more reason to go back and revisit and try to pick up what you didn't before. As I basically said previously, it starts off seeming like a cool, futuristic sci-fi action anime, but as it goes on, it gets much deeper and ends up raising some thought-provoking questions and ideas. Ghost in the Shell takes place in the fictional major city of Newport City in the English version. It's the year 2029, and in this cyberpunk futuristic society, everyone and everything relies pretty heavily on the net. Like our net, but much more advanced and more expansive. Isn't it funny how many sci-fi concepts from the past end up being so eerily accurate? And most everyone in society can link up to the net directly through cybernetic upgrades. And that's because almost everyone are cyborgs, from one extreme to the other. Some have as little as just a brain upgrade to link them to the net. Others have everything from cybernetic limbs to where some have even completely robotic bodies. And this is where the concept of Ghost in the Shell comes in. A person's ghost is basically their consciousness or their soul. And as long as it has a shell to exist in, you will still be you, robotic body or not. Just like our main character, Major Motoko Kusanagi, or just simply the Major. She has a fully cybernetic body, not an ounce of flesh. She's one of the leaders of a special police force known as Section 9. The movie pretty much revolves around the Major and Section 9 trying to track down the Puppet Master, whose identity is unknown but has been hacking into people's ghosts and changing around their memories and getting them to do what the Puppet Master intends. Now, this is basically the plot of the movie, but there is much more to the story underneath. And it especially comes through with the Major's character. Since she has a fully cybernetic body with only her ghost remaining of her original self, the big theme of Ghost in the Shell is, what does it mean to be human? Or what exactly is it that makes us human? This idea is really explored through her character and more, but when I get into spoilers later. But what's really explored through her character is the more and more cybernetic you become, at what point do you start to lose what it is that makes you a living human being? The characters or other members of Section 9 have cybernetic upgrades to different degrees, and the director and the writers did a good job showing the difference between them when it comes to their sense of self and humanity. You have Togusa, Section 9's newest member. He is still almost completely human, with the exception of a brain upgrade so that he can link into the net, but he has very little cybernetic upgrades. The Major even tells him part of why he was recruited was because of the different perspective he brings. And the fact that he is still mostly human shows in a few ways, like how he is attached to using his old school style revolver as his weapon of choice. even when there are more advanced and upgraded weapons that would be the more logical choice. Batou is a higher ranking member of Section 9 and is possibly the closest one to Motoko. He's somewhere between Togusa and the Major with his upgrades, most noticeably in his eyes that have upgrades like thermal optic vision and things like that. But even he still shows more elements of human traits, like how he feels almost ashamed to look at Motoko as she's changing clothes, which brings us to the Major herself, who seems a lot more distant when it comes to the normal human traits. She has no problem changing and getting down to the nude in front of others or in public. She wears a very skin-tight outfit and barely notices. She doesn't even seem to have her own sense of sexuality or gender. She also never ever blinks, a detail that was done on purpose. And even though in many ways she seems almost more like a robot, she does things like letting herself sink underwater as deep as she dares before coming back to the surface just to feel alive through fear. She knows that her robotic body is superior and more efficient than a human body and still has her own unique thoughts, memories, and sense of destiny, but she still feels confined in her body to express herself fully. And I really think the film does a good job provoking thought when it comes to these questions, especially through her and her curiosity, what it means to be or feel human. One thing that I find intriguing is when the puppet master changes someone's memories. It makes you wonder, what is the real difference between an artificial memory and a real memory? Or even scarier, what does it matter? Of course, most of us would think, obviously, yes, it matters. Your memories and your experiences are what make you, you. But just from a more scientific, logical point of view, what is the real difference? And it's things like this that make Ghost in the Shell more than just a fun cyberpunk action anime. Before getting into spoilers on the ending and the role of the puppet master in this story, I want to talk about the animation. Again, for me, the animation that Ghost in the Shell displays only reminds me of why I love anime so much in the first place. How beautiful it is, the way it delivers its action scenes, emotion, and intense moments. This movie in particular has some pretty impressive animation in my opinion. I love the way they portray this mega city. Not only is it beautiful, but very detailed. I especially love a lot of the backgrounds. I feel they do a great job capturing the scale of Newport City, giving a real sense of the setting and the world we are in. It's very obviously in the future, but still seems like a realistic major city. The character expressions do a good job distinguishing the difference between characters like Motoko and Batou. The action in this film is also very on point. There are a few very memorable action scenes in Ghost in the Shell. They are very well done, mostly because the animation delivers it very well and as realistic as possible. Surround that with a beautiful setting, and you have something very stylistic and, like I said, memorable. Like the opening scene when Major jumps off the top of the skyscraper, or the chase scene that ends up in that open space with the shallow water, or the Major's gunfight with the tank towards the end. Scenes that you will remember from the movie even if you forget everything else. I really like this movie, and it took me a couple viewings plus some analyzing to really appreciate it. On first viewing, it's a cool sci-fi action mystery, and I think you can pick up on the theme by the end of the movie. But after that, you can really go back and really pay attention and pick up what you didn't before. There's not much for me to complain about or pick at, and honestly, since I enjoy the movie, I don't really want to go through and try to find things wrong with it. Especially when there's so much more to dig deep and find here. Like I said, the animation is great, the action is detailed and fun, and even though it's not a long movie by any means, it's not afraid to slow down and take its time to reflect on what the message is trying to get across is. Recently, I've realized that I think this movie, in a lot of ways, reminds me of Blade Runner. If you've seen that and Ghost in the Shell, I would love to hear what you think on that. But also, I think this movie does a really good job with the character of Motoko Kusanagi. Not only is she badass, but who would have thought a fully cybernetic being could be so interesting? To see the main idea of the movie partly displayed as a conflict within her, I think helped to make this a great character and this a great movie. So I'm a big fan of Ghost in the Shell, and it's not hard for me to see why it's so beloved and considered to be so inspiring. And really, everything I've said in this video is what I personally took away from the movie. Maybe if you watch it, you might see something or interpret something differently. I would love to hear what you think. This movie is a perfect example of how great anime is. The way it can touch on deeper and higher meanings, characters with depth, told through a beautiful animation style that isn't only unique but can't be replicated. If you haven't seen the 1995 anime version of Ghost in the Shell, I highly recommend it. Go check it out. But along with everything I've mentioned before, I think this movie does go just a bit deeper with what it's saying. It needs to be touched on, but from here on, this is a spoiler zone for the twist of the movie. So from here on out, spoilers for the end. So the Major and Section 9 have been trying to track down the Puppet Master. So getting towards the end of the movie, we find out that the Puppet Master isn't actually a man or woman, but basically an entity or consciousness that sort of came to be on the net. For a reference, he's not too unlike Ultron. Forced into a cybernetic body, or shell, this artificial ghost explains his intentions and sense of existence. Without getting too spoilery for the story, I just want to focus on what the Puppet Master adds to the overall message or question. It explains that it has its own free will and does not consider itself artificial intelligence, arguing that it is a living entity born in the net, considering itself just as much a natural life form as a human being in this world that is so intertwined and dependent on technology. It goes on to explain that memories of a human are what ultimately make an individual who they are, and memories, just like life, cannot be explained. Our genetic code is basically a program. In this world, technology and computers have become so advanced and the net of information so vast, it can develop its own system of memories and processing of thoughts, and therefore its own sense of consciousness. Now, I know this can get a little confusing, but I really found this concept to be really intriguing. When you stop and think about it, what is life? If one day in our world we do achieve the creation of artificial intelligence, and if it can process and apply information gained through individual and unique experiences, is that not what a memory basically is? And if it has its own sense of awareness, like the example from our movie, what would really make human beings considered more alive? Scientifically, what really is the difference? This isn't just something the Puppet Master is trying to explain, but it's a question he's curious about himself. And I really do love the twist in what this character adds to the film. Like I said, in my opinion, this is a very interesting concept. As I said before, this is what I took from the film, and the movie doesn't give a definite answer to anything. It's for us to speculate and discuss. This movie can really start up some in-depth conversation, and I think that's what makes it great, on top of a cool, futuristic sci-fi. It's got the action, it's done well, and as I said, the animation and the setting is beautiful. This is something I like more the more I think about it. If you're a sci-fi fan or an anime fan, then I highly recommend this film if you haven't seen it. In the comments below, please let me know what you think of Ghost in the Shell, the 1995 anime version. Thanks for watching AnTalk, the weekly comic conversation. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and take care. Hey guys, did you like this video? If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more of my videos, click right here on this icon to become a subscriber. And if you are a subscriber, don't forget to ring that bell so you can stay updated with all my videos. And if you want to see another video just like this one, click right here. And as always, thanks for watching AnTalk, the weekly comic conversation.